All right, let's play these two other clips. These are also from Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's conversation on NPR this morning. This is why she explains the concept of, and again, this is another one of like, really? Is NPR not under? Okay. Externalities should be in the general discourse, but it hasn't been because we've lived in neoliberal nonsense land, and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez explains to NPR what externalities are and what economics does not measure.
As you know, Congresswoman, one reason that people who are politically conservative are skeptical of efforts to combat climate change is that it sounds to them like it requires massive government intervention, which they just don't like. Are you prepared to put on the table that, yes, actually, they're right. What this requires is massive government intervention?
It does. Yeah, I have no problem saying that. Why? Because we have tried their approach for 40 years. For 40 years, we tried to let the private sector take care of it. They said, we got this. We can do this. The forces of the market are going to force us to innovate, except for the fact that there's a little thing in economics called externalities. And what that means is that a corporation can dump pollution in the river and they don't have to pay for it, and taxpayers have to pay for cleaning up our air, cleaning up our water, and saving the planet. And so we've already been paying the costs, except we have not been getting any of the benefit. And so what we're here to say is that government is not just for cleaning up other people's mess, but it's also for building solutions in places where the private sector will not.
There it is. So, and it's also what's funny about the pretext of that question is it belies such a fundamental lack of faith in democracy. I mean, you can substitute words you could use for sort of government in that sense is the ability of a polity to solve big problems and not be at the whim of extractive private entities that have an incredibly narrow and highly short-term sense of interest, which is quite literally making the planet uninhabitable. But there's also definitely a visionary and moral dimension to this, and she really weaves these quite well. Here she is contrasting the Green New Deal with the white nationalism of Donald Trump.
Do you feel that you know how to take the great fame that you have won over the last several months and turn that fame into power?
No. I think that part of where I am right now is that I'm learning. I think that really what I hope we're able to do as a party and as a nation is rediscover the power of public imagination. I think that this is a very special moment. And frankly, that is something that I think the president did do, in that he was able to take his profile and say, here's this hugely impossible thing that seems ridiculous, but I'm going to seriously push for it. And for him, that's his wall. And obviously I'm diametrically opposed to it. But I think that the reason he's so attached to this thing, despite the fact that it's not what voters want, despite the fact that it's not what the American people want, is that it's the only vision he has. He has no other picture of America except an America with a huge wall on the southern border. And I think that what we have a responsibility to do is show what another America looks like. Okay, let's take all of that political energy, all of that resource that would go into building a massive second medieval wall on our southern border. And what if we actually took all that concrete and poured it into roads? What if we took all of that engineering and dedicated it to new energy? What if we took all of that, but actually invested in something that will have payback and a return on our investment for the American people?
Exactly. And also, and it's great too that she doesn't, people have gotten so burned out on hopey changey rhetoric because it's been attached to insufficient and sometimes even just really bad policies. It's great that she's still keeping that kind of visionary dimension with the actual substance of a real transformative democratic New Deal, Green New Deal. And yeah, I mean, what a catastrophic, racist, and stupid vision Trump's vision is. I'm confident who will win out.
She should work up a FDR impression and just
Yeah,
be
she
like,
should.
I don't know how we're gonna. I can't.
Yeah.
It sounds like I'm.
What a soon, I don't know, Steve, but it's a dumb motherfucking question. Hey, Steve, how about you get the fuck out of my office and then record 10 minutes about how long the trip is to the congressional cafeteria? We were listening to this full interview in prep this morning, and it was like the classic, like, dumb middlebrow NPR filler before they started asking her questions about, like, spending or whatever. Like, how are you going to pay for it? It was all like, the window opened, revealing a slight ray of sunlight in the dynamic freshman congressman. You're just like, shut the fuck up and do your interview.
Walking
Jesus.
is a big part of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's routine as she sits in the furthest. I can't even get through this.
Yeah, I know.
It's because the CIA is like keep as much of this about things besides politics as we can.
Right.
NPR.
Yeah. And you're just sitting there just like, oh my, the wind up is so ridiculous that you're like sitting there like, oh my God, can you fucking get to your dumb deficit question already? Because then at least we'll get like
Talk about the deficit.
just talk,
Please.
do something.
Yeah, because with
Hey,
AOC, it's
don't you want to ask how she's going to afford it?
It is interesting because like previously those questions like don't ask the Democratic politician that because they're gonna have to like repeat some pablum that is gonna irritate us. But now it's like yes, get to that question so that the Democratic politician can actually answer why it's a dumb question.
Right. She'll explain why it's a dumb question if you just get to it quickly. Jay Cool. Hey, Michael, do you know much about El Salvador's new president, Niab Buckle, or have thoughts on